shortly.
I missed that one. Exactly. And some of the babies going to be here. Right. They got to be.
All right. Marlon.
Hello, Michelle.
To the Administration and Finance, Recreation and Parks Committee for July 12th, 2022. As always, of course, our elected officials, Mayor Kurt Wilson, Councilmember Christine Hall, Councilmember Michael Palermo, Councilmember Peter Vanstrom, Councilmember G. Lee Hills, and Councilmember William Morthland. The purpose of committee meetings are for the city departments to convey information to the mayor and city council and discuss initiatives listed on the published agenda, as well as provide updates of vital information essential to the operation of city government. By ordinance, the committee consists of the mayor, council members, and the city administrator. And the city administrator serves as the chair of committee meetings. This is a public meeting, but not a public hearing, and therefore, while the meeting is open to the public, and we are certainly grateful for citizens here this evening, we do not generally take public comments or questions during committee meetings unless specifically authorized by mayor and council. Public comments or questions are received at the regular city council meetings at 7:00 p.m. in city council chambers on the second and fourth Monday of each month and the fifth Monday of each month in open forum. We do encourage citizens to engage our online platforms, and if you have any questions or need information, please contact our staff who is available to provide information to you. We also encourage citizens to visit our city website for meetings, events, departmental information. Also, our city web service portal is a mechanism to report issues or concerns, and I'd also encourage residents to download the City of Roswell app. Yesterday evening, the mayor and council approved a significant measure, a bond measure to be placed on the ballot in November. And in the coming days and weeks, we certainly encourage citizens to access information on our websites and receive information that will be disseminated from the city to learn more about the bond proposals and subsequent engagements. Mayor Wilson, would you like to provide any comments at this time?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just to kind of echo your comments, sir, is that last night was a historic evening, I think, in the history of Roswell, Georgia, as the city council and through the hard work of the staff moved forward on perhaps a generational event for this city, which is submitting to our fellow residents 3 general obligation bonds, one for $107.6 million for Parks and Recreation, Bike and Pedestrian Master Plan, and Sidewalks, and the other for $52 million for our public safety, for our fire and police, and a third general obligation bond for $20 million for potential parking deck. And each one of these will be separate questions on the ballot in November, on which the residents will ultimately make the decision on whether they want these bonds to occur. But historic in the sense that this city council, in a very courageous way, I think, stood up and said, yes, we're going to submit these to our voters. Yes, these are things we believe should be done. Yes, it's time for us to invest back into our city with this. And I'm very gratified and proud of this council and for their leadership, and look forward to much of the discussion will take place over the next several months before the November election, where the city council, the staff, and myself will be meeting with our fellow residents, discussing these general obligation bonds and in great detail what will be involved. The final list of what will be included on the 3 general obligation bonds will be determined on August 22nd. And so there's still some work to do with the council and staff of the city. And so keep your ears open and your eyes wide open and your ears peeled back or something to that extent, because there's a lot to come. There is a lot of detail to share on each of these general obligation bonds, but it was a historic evening for our city. Thank you, Mr. Knighton, to you and your team for all the work that everybody did. Thank you to council for the amount of work that you did, and for the amount of work that you're about to start doing on this. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Knighton, for that time.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the Administration and Finance and Recreation and Parks Committee meeting of June 14th, 2022. Are the minutes accepted as proposed? Yes. That was a motion by Council Member Hills.
Thank you, yes.
A second by Mayor Wilson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the minutes? All in favor of the minutes? Okay, all right, thank you.
Will, do you have opposition to the minutes?
Thank you, and then we'll ask, right. We have an approval, we have any opposition, we have an abstention, et cetera. Okay, all right, thank you. Okay. All right, and then we have,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, Mayor Wilson.
would it be possible to move one event ahead of our illustrious department head, Mr. Leatherman, just for a very quick issue that we deferred from the committee meeting,
Sure,
previous
yes,
committee
Mayor
meeting?
Wilson, yes, if you would like to, and then we'll have that formally approved.
Sorry, Jeff.
Formally approved by the committee, just for the record's sake.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to move the Transportation Department's presentation on the Webb Street presentation from the last committee meeting as the first item. It was originally scheduled for the July 26th committee meeting, and I'd like to move that to this committee meeting here for consideration.
All right, thank you. That was a motion by Mayor Wilson to hear this item, second by Councilmember Vanstrom. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you for that. The agenda is amended then to include this item, and for record's sake, the transportation staff will again brief you on this item and provide any opportunity for questions. Thank you, Mr. Cox. Yes, please.
This item, just to recap, was a consideration to approve a resolution for the city administrator to approve any necessary documents for a license for land use for use of public right-of-way for 128 Webb Street. As previously mentioned, this was discussed 2 weeks ago at the Transportation Committee meeting. And here is the graphic that kind of illustrates the issue here. I'll briefly recap it. This is Webb Street. Not sure if this thing is on. Here's Webb Street. Canton Street is just off the map here to the east. The pavement of Webb Street currently ends right here by the new townhomes that went in a few years ago. The issue is the applicant owns the property here in the yellow shaded area. When staff went to research this, we normally would have the applicant extend the road to their property and build their driveway to it. However, when we did our due diligence and our right-of-way research, it came up inconclusive. There was some concern over the red shaded area. We went back over 100 years of records and couldn't definitively prove that it was ever dedicated to the public. So after consulting with our legal department and our community development department, the consensus was to issue or consider a license for land use, which would allow the applicant to install a driveway from the end of Webb Street on the green shaded area, which is confirmed to be public, and thread the needle and then turn onto their property here. One thing I wanted to make very clear is this license is revocable. The city can revoke it, and if they ever want to use this property here for another asset or infrastructure improvement, we have the right to do that. The only condition is we do have to guarantee them access in some capacity, either a road or a driveway. So it is revocable. The applicant is very well aware of that. The other thing is that is made clear to them is this is to remain public. It's unlikely people will transit through here and go back here because this is a wooded area with a creek and there's homes back here. There's no real walkability connection back here. But if citizens do walk back here, they do have the legal ability to do so. The applicant's aware. They cannot gate the driveway. They do have to maintain it. The city is not responsible for maintaining their driveway, and any stormwater or discharge has to be done on private property, so we don't get any requests for damage to other land from runoff. So again, those are the main points of the contract, and I just wanted to yield for questions or if there's any concerns from the mayor and council.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Cox. Yes, Mayor Wilson.
Mr. Chairman, I move to move this, what is this? Wait, I gotta find my writing. Oh, we have some questions? Okay, sorry, I don't move then. They're going to rescind my motion.
All right, Councilmember Palermo?
So the irony is, 2 weeks ago, I was a big advocate for moving this forward, and now actually have some additional questions to, as you said, something that sparked my memory of a different incident. So when we have, and I certainly will be supporting, it sounds like the mayor's motion to move this forward, but first, there's a specific legal detail I'm curious about. When there were inconclusive details regarding the west alley, we basically requested the neighboring landlords to give quitclaim deeds. And so basically what I'm wondering is, as a part of this, for that red, should the yellow property owner be required to give a quitclaim deed?
Yes, I failed to mention that in my summary, but yes, in the agreement, they are required to officially dedicate the red that touches their property to the city to tidy up those old records.
Okay.
And then if any future development occurs on the neighboring parcels, we would clear that up as well at that time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Hall?
My question. Thank you. My question is regarding sidewalks. Are they going to be required to put sidewalks in along the front of their property there, consistent with our sidewalk policy?
For the yellow shaded property, no, because there's not enough right-of-way to put that in there. The original right-of-way swath was estimated to be about 30 feet wide. This area where their driveway is going to be is approximately, I think it's 17 to 18 feet. So they have no room to put anything else. Now, in regards to these other parcels, if these ever do develop or redevelop, and they're along the street frontage, then yes, that would likely trigger streetscape, and we would require right-of-way to install sidewalks, or have the developer put in the sidewalk.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to follow up on that, Christine? I think, can I ask a follow-up?
Yes, please do.
So I think the follow-up, if I'm reading your mind, is to your point, Dave. So if that were to happen on the adjoining red, yes, and say those get developed, but there's not a sidewalk on the piece of property that it's in question today, would there a sidewalk then be determined to needed to be put in?
So the developer who's trying to do this yellow parcel has been trying to get in touch with these people. These people have been rather elusive. I think they live out of state and they've been unable to get contact with. So if that continues, they would likely acquire this in development. They are aware that we could come in and make them extend the street and possibly sidewalk. Another thing in the agreement I left out was if, for example, this house gets built, let's say in a year or so, and down the road they redevelop or do an addition, that would also trigger streetscape. So that could open the door to say we want to extend this street and do it properly. But that would be at a later date if they redevelop.
I know this is a really dumb question, but if the pieces, and I know this one particular owner, I think one's recently deceased from 2 years ago on this one piece here, correct?
Right here?
Yes.
I'm not aware of the details, but.
So it's very, very difficult, having a hard time putting the information together. But as you said, every that got activated, streetscape would kick in, correct?
Yes.
Sidewalks would kick in as a
Yes.
consequence. So I think if I'm reading Christine's question, why isn't streetscape required on the Walsh property here on the yellow piece?
Well, because we're not going to have a street here. The street's going to, as of now, if this gets approved, the street would still end right here.
Okay,
And they would just build a driveway.
gotcha.
Oh, so the green, it's not going to continue to be a street in the public row area?
Well, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? I can only hear one conversation at a time.
I think my confusion was the public row. I thought that they were going to continue that to be a street, or it's that green area was going to be a street. And
Yeah, originally, if this right-of-way didn't come up, this right-of-way little snag we hit, we would, of course, make them extend the street and we'd probably get right-of-way, or we could have them install a sidewalk. But because there's not enough right-of-way width, we're doing this alternate solution. If, for example, this property develops, that we could make them extend the street and put in a sidewalk, but it would just be a orphan sidewalk. It would be up to the city to come back and correct this problem. That would be a concern if you'd want to.
I would just like to remind my colleagues, it's 5:20, and we said we're going to be out here at 5:45. It's not looking good already. I'm just joking, but go ahead.
Councilmember Palermo.
So when we have other situations like that in other parts of the city, a developer is always required to either build a sidewalk, or when it's not possible, feasible, et cetera, they're required to pay into the sidewalk fund. Is that something that's happening with this situation?
Not in this situation, no. We're doing the special license for land use, because we can't make him do this here, and this is not his property or his frontage, so we didn't entertain that as an option.
But I guess where I'm going though is with other places where it's the same situation where the city's not entertaining the sidewalk, the developers are required to still pay into the sidewalk fund.
Yes, if they meet one of our exceptions, like, substantial terrain or that, yeah, there are exceptions they can contribute to the fee in lieu of, and that goes into our sidewalk fund.
Well, I guess that's where I don't understand why it seems to me like this is that case where I totally understand they cannot build a sidewalk, but it seems like this is the only property I've seen that's not required to pay into the sidewalk fund.
That is a very good point, but currently our code doesn't have an exception for that. It doesn't say because you don't have enough right-of-way to build it. We didn't entertain that option because it's never come up in this fashion before. It's not one of the known exceptions. There's not enough public right-of-way to build a road.
Yes, Mayor Wilson.
It's possible we could ask, but
Gabe, can I use your clicker?
yes, sir.
Just throw it. You got it. We got this. Come on. We've done this before, Dan. All right. So just. All right. So this is not activated, but if it became activated, there would be streetscape vis-a-vis sidewalks,
Yes.
which would be logical.
That's
And these would be contiguous, right? These would be contiguous sidewalks. And if that were to happen, which I think is where this conversation's going, then all of a sudden, we got an orphan.
There would be nothing there. That's correct. The city would have to go in and put that in ourselves.
And there's been criticism of us as a city of having these kind of situations, right? So it is a fair question for us. And doggone it, I wish I'd thought of this earlier today. So we don't know this is going to be activated, but we have to assume at some point it will be activated. And if it's activated, the sidewalk would stop here, and this would not have a sidewalk on it.
That's correct. The only thing I just want to remind you of, there's a lot of terrain issues. There's a creek back there, and there's not currently a connection to the neighborhood to the west.
And to your point, and I guess, but the other thing that's kind of confusing about this is not a street, is it?
No, that's just vacant land back there.
This is just land.
That's correct.
So therefore, the sidewalk is not as applicable, whereas this would be this is active street,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So that's the distinction of why you kind of made this decision, like, this gets activated, but it's on a street, therefore you need a sidewalk. This is being activated, but this is not a street.
That's correct.
Okay, just for elimination.
Yes, Councilmember Hills.
What's the, thank you, Chairman. What is the, I don't understand the possibility of revoking later. Can you talk about that? What would the ramifications be, or what, and I know that's a big what if, but what does that mean?
So this was just to protect the city's interest if something ever did happen back there. Or we, for some reason, wanted to extend the street or add a multi-use trail to some other destination. That seems very unlikely at this time, but we want to reserve the right and protect our interest in the future.
Okay.
This red, Lee,
We don't want to grant it to the resident forever in perpetuity.
so that we're granting them a license on this red, basically.
The green,
On the blue. On the green?
on the green.
Okay, it's on the green we're granting them a license? All right, so, but it means we still own it. So they can use it since we're granting them a license, but we still own it, correct?
Yes, and if you prefer, we can coordinate with our legal department to set those limits to make it very clear, not the whole green area, but just the further driveway.
Which means if 7 years from now, you came up with some bike and pedestrian plan and it touched this and the traffic needed to increase, you have the right to do that.
That's right. We could revoke it and take it back over.
And to that end, the other clarification I would make is that the property owner would still be granted access, obviously,
Yes.
to their property. And that would be a certainty going forward. Councilmember Morthland. And then Councilmember.
And the other point that you brought up earlier about if they were, even though they're not supposed to, if they were to put up a gate, that would be another revocable piece as well?
Yeah, in the terms of the agreement we've drafted, they cannot gate it. It has to remain open to the public. Now, they won't advertise that, but people could walk back there without fear of, getting cited with trespassing.
And the temperature for the conversation is for something 20 years down the road. If a gate were to pop up, then
We have the documentation we need to make sure that doesn't happen.
Councilmember Vanstrom.
Yeah, I'm usually really good about doing my homework and seeing things before we talk about them. I have not been to this site, so I just want to know, there's no way in the future above that yellow property that there's ever would be connectivity to a road.
I never want to say never, but it's very unlikely given there's an established neighborhood. I could show you the aerial very quickly if that pleases the commission. So it's right here. I'll pull up the aerial. So we're basically talking about this area right in here. You have the neighborhood that comes off of Pine Grove Road. There's homes back here. It's unlikely there'd ever be a connection. It's possible there could be one, some kind of trail or road connection, but that's unlikely. That is not something the Transportation Department has considered in the past.
House is there. There's a house right there. The house, right. You have to take the house out.
Take the house out in that neighborhood if you go straight.
Yeah, there's homes back here in these trees. Right in here. And just to be clear, Google shows a road here. There's not a road. It ends right about here.
Go through people's yards.
This is what you're looking at. It extends down. You can see the terrain. You're looking at the rooftops of these homes. You can see the terrain is quite a factor. And from what I understand from the developer, the home would be up here on the higher ground just because the terrain drops off so dramatically.
Any further questions this time? If not, we'll entertain a motion if there is one to be placed before the committee.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
To move this item forward.
Move this
to-
item forward to
Mayor
the
and
city
council.
mayor and council meeting on July the 25th. Is that correct? To the mayor and city council meeting for consideration on July 25th.
Second.
There's a motion by Mayor Wilson, a second by Councilmember Hall. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Never easy, Dave, when you get up here, is it?
One day it'll happen.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cox. All right, we do not have any items from administration, no action items there. No items from finance. Under Recreation and Parks, item number 2, consideration of a resolution to allow scarecrows in the City of Roswell right-of-way. Mr. Leatherman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mayor and Council. What you have before you is a request for resolution to place scarecrows in the right-of-way. This is along Canton Street. Request from our Roswell Women's Club. We have members of the club here this afternoon. And we have a city ordinance at 18.2.1 that does restrict certain things within the right-of-way. And so past history over the last few years, when we've had this activity in the right-of-way, we've brought a resolution for approval to council that would then authorize the scarecrows with a couple of bullet points associated with the placement of the scarecrows along Canton Street. Be happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Request to move this forward to your next mayor and council meeting for approval.
Yes, Mayor Wilson?
Mr. Chairman, I think it's no accident that Mr. Leatherman here has brought the Women's Club here to scare us and intimidate us into fully supporting this action in motion, and I find that reprehensible, Mr. Leatherman. But that being said, I move forward to make a motion to move forward on this for consideration.
All right. Motion by Mayor Wilson, second by Council Member Hills. Any further comment or question? All right. Seeing none, all in favor? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Item number 3, consideration for approval to apply for a cultural facilities grant from Georgia Council for the Arts.
Yes, good evening. This item is consideration for approval to apply for the Cultural Facilities Grant from Georgia Council for the Arts. This is a grant that provides support for the renovation, restoration, preservation, or acquisition of arts facilities and the purchase of equipment that support art programs. Our request would be a 1-to-1 match for the fiscal year FY23. Our department has been approved to provide Cultural Arts Center meeting room upgrades, as well as Cultural Arts Center lighting system upgrades in the amount of $20,000 and $25,000. So that would be a $45,000 1-to-1 match that is already part of the FY23 approved budget. So what we would be requesting is the approval to move forward with the application process that's affiliated with that grant. If we receive those funds, we would be looking to enhance the meeting room upgrades by providing AV equipment as well as some lighting. And then if we were approved for project number 2, which would be the lighting system at the Cultural Arts Center, this project actually is scheduled to replace about 1/3 of the stage lighting systems. This would allow us to do basically 2/3 of that project with the grant funding, as opposed to having to space that out over a 3-year period. So that would kind of enhance the process much quicker for us. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion to move this
Motion to
item
approve.
forward. Motion by Councilmember Hills, thank you. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Morthland. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you very much. This item will move forward. Seeing no other items under the Administration and Finance and Recreation and Parks Committee, we will ask for a motion of adjournment. A motion by Mayor Wilson, second by Councilmember Morthland. All in favor? That is adjourned. All right. We'll pause for just one quick second. Public Safety and Public Works Committee meeting. Good afternoon again, and welcome to Public Safety and Public Works Committee for July 12, 2022. We, of course, have our esteemed Mayor and Council here, Mayor Kurt Wilson, Council Member Christine Hall, Council Member Michael Palermo, Council Member Peter Vanstrom, Council Member G. Lee Hills, and Council Member William Morthland. Purpose of committee meetings are for city departments to convey information to the mayor and city council and discuss initiatives listed on the published agenda. By ordinance, the committee consists of the mayor, council members, and city administrator, and the city administrator serves as chair of committee meetings. This is a public meeting, but not a public hearing. Therefore, while the meeting is open to the public, and we certainly welcome the public here this evening, there are no comments or questions received at committee meetings unless specifically authorized by mayor and council. Public comments or questions are received at the regular city council meetings on the second and fourth Monday of each month at 7:00 p.m. in city council chambers, as well as the fifth Monday of each month in open forum. We do encourage citizens to access our online platforms, and if they need any information, to contact our staff who can provide information to you. I would encourage, of course, citizens, as always, to visit our city website and online portals, including our web service portal, to report any concern or issue, and the city staff will respond accordingly. Last night, the council did pass a bond referendum item. We encourage people to learn more about that bond referendum and continue to receive information from the city as we engage the public to discuss the bond proposal in details. Any comment, Mayor, at all at this time?
Well, I'll take another 15 minutes. Take another 15 minutes if you'd like me to, Mr. Chairman. But yeah, we're good. No, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the Public Safety and Public Works Committee meeting for June 14th, 2022. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Hills. Second by Mayor Wilson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. He wasn't here, right? Yes. All right, the first item under Public Safety Fire, item number 2 is listed on the agenda, consideration for approval to trade in 14 cardiac monitor defibrillators and 8 Lucas chest compression devices. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and Chair. The Fire Department requests the approval to trade in 14 LifePak 15 cardiac monitors / defibrillators, as well as 8 Lucas devices. These are CPR chest compression devices. These devices are actually outdated. They were purchased between 2010 and 2017. The discontinuance of replacement components are also an issue as far as getting them repaired. The city's ability to resell these devices is limited, therefore. So we're requesting to place these items with, the staff recommends moving the item to July 25th Mayor and City Council agenda for further consideration. There was a budget amendment on June 27th to purchase 14 new cardiac monitors, defibrillators, as well as 8 Lucas devices. These numbers that you see here, the trade-in value is included in that amount. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right. Gentlemen, okay, any?
Just one question. What's the shelf life of the LifePak 15? And what's the new of the shelf life?
So right now, typically you're gonna get about 7 to 8 years. So basically, we have this on a replacement cycle. So in 7 years, we can replace them again.
In 7 years, we'll be back here doing the same thing, right? Okay.
And also keep in mind, the ones that we're trading in is version 1. We're purchasing version 2, version 3 and 4.
You're getting versions 2, 3, and 4?
3 and 4.
3 and 4, got it.
Yes.
Very good, thank you.
All right, any further questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion to move this item forward. Motion by Councilmember Hills.
Motion to move this forward.
Second by Mayor Wilson. All those in favor? All right, wonderful. Gentlemen, before you go, since you do such a great job in the city, just for purposes of the viewing audience, why don't you just introduce yourselves and tell us your position with the fire department?
Sure. Tavon Claggett, Division Chief, Professional Standards.
And Alex Robles, EMS Director.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, would you like to, again, let's just talk about yourself and the staff and the city council and how they have, with the FY23 budget, phased in the first year of 5 of implementing a full-time fire department in the city of Roswell. Again, another historic and notable achievement that this council deserves great credit for, and staff for equally for making that happen. So it's always good to see the guys here from the guys and gals from the fire department and their great service. And I think the council is elated underneath the leadership of G. Lee Hills to begin the phasing in, a 5-year phase-in of a full-time fire department, starting here. Right now, we've begun the hiring process for 21 captains, advertising, and they'll start being hired in October. So, fantastic news.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for Chief Panino for your leadership as well. All right, item number 3, under Public Safety Police, Chief Conroy. This item is consideration of a resolution to submit the FY 2022 Justice Assistance Grant local proposal in the amount of $22,606. Chief Conroy.
All right, good evening, Mayor and City Council. This is a permission to apply for the 2022 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant from the U.S. Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance. The city's allocated amount is $22,606. If approved, the items that we'll purchase from this, you'll remember from our budget request, 4 traffic analyzers, a motorcycle trailer, and power optics for members of our SWAT team. There are no matching funds required for this grant.
All right, thank you, Chief Conroy. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, yes. Motion from Council Member Vanstrom to move the item forward. Second from Mayor Wilson. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, thank you so much. All right, and then item number 4 under Public Works.
You have 2 minutes.
All right. Item number 4 under Public Works, consideration for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a mutual aid agreement with Georgia Water Wastewater Agency Response Network.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Brian.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We're here tonight to ask for approval to enter into a mutual aid agreement with the Georgia Water Wastewater Agency Response Network, or Georgia WARN. This is a program that's administered by Georgia EPD and is a network of water and or wastewater utilities and or associations that could potentially provide support to the city during times of emergencies such as natural disasters. By entering into this agreement, the city is under no obligation, and it just provides the terms and conditions that the city would be authorized to abide to if they do. This is also a recommendation of our sanitary survey and a recommendation as part of our water utility master plan. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. We've also got Chris Boyd here, the water utility manager, who can answer.
Yes, Mayor Wilson.
Mr. Chairman, has Mr. Davidson and Mr. Petty reviewed this agreement?
Yes, sir, we have reviewed this agreement.
And are there any, this is, I mentioned it's a reciprocal agreement.
Correct.
Is there anything from a standpoint of, obviously this is meant to help us in time of need, is that correct?
That's correct.
Are there any other potential additional strings in here that we may not see that might be in the legal language?
The city always has the ability to withdraw from it,
I see the withdrawal under Article 14.
and everybody is responsible for their own insurance. It is a mutual aid, so if we have somebody that specializes in a certain area, that person will be able to go and respond to an emergency in another area that doesn't have somebody that's capable to respond. So, or vice versa, if we need somebody that specializes in a certain area, we can get them to come help us.
So in all seriousness, anything we can do to help each other out, I'm always for. I also know that we have a responsibility from a standpoint of being cognizant of anything that might further entangle ourselves in greater enforcement of agencies. One of the things I think that we as a people struggle, both at the city level, county level, state level, is that we find ever encroaching organizations sometimes limiting our ability to act, and it happens insidiously without us ever knowing it. So forgive the questioning, because that's the intent, is want to make sure that there's not something that ultimately that makes it more difficult for the city of Roswell at some point to act as an independent and free agency.
Thank you. Yes, Councilmember Palermo.
So I definitely appreciate the thought process and the questions, because not with Public Works, but I can think of some other examples over the years where there have been situations where I wouldn't say it's impacted our ability to work freely, et cetera, but I'd say there's been situations where we've perhaps given resources that are benefiting other communities and not benefiting Roswell, despite it being Roswell residents paying for those resources. But for this, I support, and I want to call out, there's both the opportunity to withdraw, but didn't you also say that even though it's this type of agreement, we're not actually, if we're having an emergency, we have resource constraints or something along those lines, isn't there flexibility that we have and that we get to exercise?
Correct. We do not have to, if we get asked by the network to participate, we can say, no, we can't, we cannot provide those resources, and there's no obligation. It's just, if we do enter into that, everything's set up here to make sure that we get compensated either by supporting, or we would compensate the other entity for helping us out.
Excellent. And for that reason, what I'd like to do is motion this to move this forward.
Okay, that's a motion by Councilmember Palermo. Second by Councilmember Hills. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor? All right, passes unanimously. This item will move forward. And having no further items on the Public Safety and Public Works Committee for July 12, 2022, we'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Motion to adjourn by Councilmember Morthland, second by Councilmember Hills. All in favor? All right. Thank you very much.
Council chambers, yeah, right, exactly.